how do we play defense against this? Like, say the millionaires or whoever, but okay, so nuclear war happens. I mean, these shelters are not going to fit 330 million people. So it's not like these shelters, how are you going to manage shelters if something were to happen? And even an individual family, okay, with food shortages or any of that stuff. You got people that own a lot of weapons themselves, a lot of, ammo, a lot of guns, just in case something were to happen. How does the average family, as well as the U.S. government, proactively play defense in case something were to happen?
Okay. Let me... One of the things we should have done was listen to Ronald Reagan and deploy the Strategic Defense Initiative, which was, and that's one of the things we still could do as a government. The Strategic Defense Initiative was designed to render nuclear missiles obsolete by deploying high-tech, space-based defenses that could shoot them down before they could reach us. The best solution, or the best defense against a nuclear war, is to not get hit in the first place by shooting down the missiles before they reach our territory. And that's what Reagan had planned to do. And, history goes through cycles where technology will sometimes favor the defense. And those tend to be more stable, safer times. Because if you're the defender, you have to worry less about getting attacked because the technology favors a defensive posture, okay? Other times in military history, the technology favors the aggressor. It favors offensive operations. That was like World War II, when the introduction of tanks in combination with air power and mobile infantry gave the advantage to aggressors and to people who conducted offensive operations. And those are more dangerous, less stable times, because he who strikes first tends to win. We are living in the most dangerous and least stable times because the invention of nuclear weapons mated with missile technology enables you to destroy another country's retaliatory capabilities in 30 minutes or less. And now, and it's getting worse and worse, the technologies are getting better at being able to destroy retaliatory capabilities. With cyber attack, with EMP attack, you can do it at the speed of light. And so the truism that he who strikes first wins is becoming more and more true, to the point that the temptation to do nuclear Pearl Harbor on us may become irresistible. And we do not do nuclear Pearl Harbors. Our nuclear strategy is not based on striking first. It's based on striking second and deterrence, and that puts us in an increasingly vulnerable and dangerous position. But we could reverse this potentially, and that was the vision that Reagan had. It wasn't just his idea. There was a brilliant scientist, Robert Jastrow, who wrote a book called How to Make Nuclear Weapons Obsolete, and it was the inspiration for this, to deploy space-based missile shield, that would be able to intercept these missiles. Edward Teller, the guy who invented the hydrogen bomb, was all for this. He was working on, there were a number of technologies that were very promising that SDI had. And we should bring back the Strategic Defense Initiative. One of these technologies was called Brilliant Pebbles, and it was ready to be deployed under the Clinton administration. But the Clinton administration, for ideological reasons, believed in mutual assured destruction, thought the ABM Treaty was the cornerstone of strategic stability, and the left has always hated ballistic missile defense. It's funny, they hate nuclear weapons, but they hate ballistic missile defense too. And so they're against both us having nuclear weapons or us having ballistic missile defense.
Do they publicly hate it but privately love it? Or is it just they hate it, period?
They hate it, period,
okay.
For ideological reasons, especially if it's in the possession of the United States. They hate it. They don't seem to be that much bothered by Russian or Chinese nuclear weapons or their defenses. They don't complain about that. But whenever we try to improve our nuclear weapons or improve our defenses, the left screams bloody murder over it. And it's happening in the Biden administration now. I mean, I just explained how some of our most important nuclear systems have been canceled by President Biden, that we really need, even though we're under this great threat from Russia. What a time to be canceling our nuclear strength. But we could deploy Brilliant Pebbles probably in 5 years for $20 billion, and it would completely change. It has the potential of completely reversing this situation so that we would then have the advantage as the defender. And the best scenario would be to start a defensive strategic arms race with our adversaries, because I wouldn't care if they were deploying brilliant Pebbles and strategic defense initiatives of their own, because if you're in a defensive arms race, that makes the situation more and more stable, and all sides start to feel more and more secure because they're better and better defended against a first strike. So there is a technological way out, and that's one way out. But if I could speak to a larger issue, because I don't want to come across here as if technology is the only card we have to play. We have a bigger, potentially a more important card to play. And the way we should be thinking about waging the new Cold War is the way we won the old Cold War. We have, for all their military power and nuclear power and specialized weapons like EMP and all the rest, we have an enormous advantage. I hope we can hold on to it in the free world. And that is, I believe our systems that believe in, have a truer understanding of human nature and of how to organize the good society. Our belief in freedom, is a great advantage that we have over them. Our systems are the vision, and unfortunately we're moving away from that. So maintaining free elections in this country, discourse, rationalism, being the way we were, for example, under the Reagan administration, all right? When you could have conversations and rationally solve problems, we need to get back to being that way. The further away we move toward authoritarian type, we become as vulnerable as they are to this. And this gives us staying power. The fact that our understanding that our society is truer to human nature gives us greater staying power. So our objective should be to split the Russian-Chinese alliance in the new Cold War, to try to contain China, to avoid getting into any kind of a war, avoid any kind of a major war with these powers as long as we can, to avoid that. Because that's a game that they are more likely to win than we are. They're better prepared for it. That's what their whole societies are geared toward. They exist for warfare. And the Soviet Union, was the most formidable military tyranny that ever existed in history. But it was based on lies, and these other systems are based on lies. They're based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature, of what makes the good society. And these internal contradictions, if you can avoid fighting them long enough, they will destroy themselves and self-destruct if you can just avoid getting in a conflict with them long enough and contain them for long enough. That was the strategy that worked in the Cold War. It was based on an article called the X article that was written anonymously by a guy who later was discovered to be George Kennan, a State Department brilliant man, who said, this is how we need to deal with the Soviet Union in the long run. They will fall of their own internal contradictions. They are so paranoid, they're going to spend themselves to death with their defense budgets. So just try to keep the peace and contain these guys long enough, and they'll just self-destruct and we'll win. And that's how we won the Cold War, and without it becoming a world war, which is a miracle in history, because normally when you have superpowers confronting each other, whether it's the Persian Empire and Alexander's Macedonia, or the Carthaginians and the Romans, these things usually end badly. They usually end with a huge a world war, in effect, to resolve the dispute.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.